This week on Rough Times, we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to talk about the governing body of DCI and DCA, and should they be made up of core directors, or is that a problem? And we're going to talk about band uniforms. Are they corny? Are they keeping kids from doing band? Maybe we should do something about that. Segue into this next topic because a lot of what we're talking about relates to it. But I actually think a lot of what has been, and I love the marching arts. Love it. In fact, very passionately.
Oh, really?
Literally built my life around it. So I'm not trying to be like negative Nancy over here criticizing everything. We actually talked before this started. Like, man, I just don't want to feel like we're just smack talking the activity every podcast. But there's a lot of things that I think do need addressed, and nobody talks about it.
Literally nobody.
And when some people do, sometimes you see it on like a thread or something. Everybody, it's just bitter arguing, and you're not.
And not only that, but like the people that subject to like the status quo will berate the one person pointing out something that is blatantly obvious. Like, I mean, we talked about it with politics.
There's also satisfaction in the problem solving.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, if you really care about it, you should want to identify the problems and identify solutions to those problems.
Yeah. But that's too much work.
Well,
that's what people don't want to do.
Here's a big problem I think that exists in the activity right now. The governing body is made up of directors, and I think that is severely flawed. I think that is a system that is in nature of how that's designed is going to lead to the destruction of the activity. And what I mean by that is everybody on the board of directors representing the integrity and health of the activity as a whole does not have that as their first priority. Everybody's first priority on that board is their personal organization, the organization that they represent. And then you only take the top 12 of those directors and put them in that board as a deciding body for everybody else. Every decision that's being made for the last 30 years or whatever has been to benefit the top 12 organizations in the activity. Like, why have we been increasing the size limit when there are corps that can't fill their ranks?
Money.
Why? And indirectly, like, I don't think it's like, here's more money for you, but I think that like what happens is they're getting more money from more people from those kids, but they're also getting, what was my point? They're also getting like indirectly they get more attention because there's less drum corps and there's less drum corps, and how much they're also. I mean, so much like how much publicity does it's an open class corps that we can use as an example.
I mean, Spartans were amazing this past year. They went out. They didn't get anything, and their show. They did what's that song from the movie with Lady Gaga and oh my God, Bradley Cooper.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Star is Born. They did Shallow, and I was the first drum corps show I watched where I wasn't like invested in the percussion section at all. Really, it was all so well coordinated that I just enjoyed the show. Like I remember being so excited at every DCI show we would go to sit down and watch the production because I was like, man, this is like, it made me feel like it was like the effect thing. It was so good. And I would talk to people about it, like, or even Legends. When all the times we've talked about Legends and how good the percussion section was, people would be like, who's that? It's like, they were cleaner than most snare lines in all of DCI. Like, those guys were laying it down. Like, their percussion section was so good on a deep fundamental level, and they got no appreciation for it. But,
well, and
I don't even know if it's just, like, the coverage thing. Like, maybe people just don't understand what it takes, I guess, to build a program like that or pull off something like that without the resources of a top 12 group.
And we're picking on DCI. Let's pick on DCA a little bit. So in DCA, and I've been to many rules congresses in DCA, and what always comes up is changing the date of finals to make it earlier. And the reason for that, and the reason that's proposed, is because college kids have to go back to school. Mm-hmm. And so college kids that go to school out of the area and can't travel just aren't doing it. Or college kids that have to move in before finals, or they have to go to their band camps or whatever, aren't able to participate or are unwilling to participate in those parameters. And they're unwilling to budge on that. And like,
who is unwilling to budge?
I was just
anybody.
Why?
It was like, I don't know if anybody.
So who proposes it and who?
The last time, I don't know if I personally proposed it. It might have. but it was not. It wasn't even.
Is it because it's a Labor Day weekend thing? Maybe that's why.
And that's how we've always done it. And I don't remember.
Do they have the same scenario what
reasons.
DCI has? Is the board made up of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sick.
But yeah, it was just like not a popular decision. And what was frustrating to me is like, I don't know. At DCA, to me, there's a bigger issue of competitive parity because you literally have the same group winning every year. Every year. And, like, you know, what would be a rule that would make sense for DCA? Make the cores smaller. There's 3 cores in DCA that go out full.
Maybe.
Make the core smaller. Make it 100 people on the field. You know what I mean? And bring the top closer to the median and make it more competitive. And then you have... Like, you want to create competitive parity because that's going to create fan interest and excitement and make everything more fun and more appealing and more engaging and more marketable.
But then it wouldn't be about winning anymore. That's sarcasm again.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Anybody who says, you know, it's like taboo to talk about this activity in terms of winning, and it's such garbage. Like, you know, it's the best example of that is the hypocrisy of that. And the ones who preach that the most, I hear anyway, are usually comes from DCI, especially younger DCI people. Like, it's not about competition. Yeah, it is. Because the first year they put the drum judge on the sideline, everybody changed how they write drill just to put the drum line in front of that judge.
I think when people say that you talk to, they're talking about their personal and member experience. I don't
member
think,
experience.
Yeah,
fine.
I was gonna say they don't.
Yes.
I'm sure they're not thinking in the grand scope of things of like, oh, like the drum judge is here and, you know, this is how it works with the circuit and this. They're just like, oh, I had a really great time drumming, and like it's not really about competing. It was about being, you know, drumming clean with your friends for a summer.
Yeah, and when I asked this, by the way, I'm not gonna. This isn't it's not an issue that I have personally with Reading Buccaneers. But do you think it's, as a member of say the Bucks, is it enjoyable to already know the out? It's not fair of me to say that, but to essentially know that you're provisioned well enough that you're pretty sure you know the outcome already. Well, do you think over time you'd be like, it's just not fun anymore? The competition part's kind of gone. I'm
not gonna say they. I'm generalizing. I have a lot of friends that I've marched with at the Caballeros and White Sabers.
And I'm not saying
that.
Good or bad,
no. Yeah, that literally went there with the mindset of I want to win. That would it had nothing to do with like the experience, the achievement, the writing. It was just like I want to win.
But like if you do that 5 years in a row, right? Does it become stale? I don't know. I've never been in that position.
I think for normal people, it is about winning. So I don't think it becomes stale to them because that's what they care about. I'm sure, like I said, I'm not like they work hard, I'm sure, but like for me, if I'm more invested and interested in like the design, the writing, the environment, I mean, even logistics, like all these other things are way more important to me than the winning, which like goes down to like the whole debacle of 2014.
I don't mind the concept of wanting to win. I mean, that's what we do.
That's what I'm saying. It's like yes, but like I always tell Mark, I can't have these conversations with normal people because I don't see the world the same way with like the winning thing. The winning thing was never a part of like my I was already fundamentally accepting from the beginning that I was not talented enough to march a drum corps that I was gonna win a medal with. Like it was just like I'm gonna do this as good as I can for as long as I can, and I'm gonna try to do this. Like, and people would talk about winning around me, and I'd be like, yeah, that's cool and all, but imagine if you put that energy into like just enjoying your experience. Like it would be. Well,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean.
No. That was pretty much the end of my thought. Okay. But it's like I don't know. I would say yes, it probably does get stale for them because they, especially in the battery, they used to have like kind of the same people there, and they started having bigger turnover year after year now.
Sure, I mean more organizationally. Now, Mark, you've been more around
organizationally.
Like, does it? This is probably not fair.
They probably
does
don't.
It seem like removing ourselves from this situation a little bit? Does it seem like Reading's interests would be to always maintain that top role, or do they want to see organizational parity?
You mean publicly or privately?
Both. I guess. I don't know. Both, I guess.
I don't know. But I also.
It's not fair. It's not a fair question because I'm here to defend
I don't want to get into like. I think. Listen, the Buccaneers deserve to win 85% of the time. They win.
Absolutely,
they're amazing. They're very good.
85% of the time they should have won 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But no, they are most of the time like it's very well deserved.
Yeah. I watched them in 2017, and I remember we were like fresh off the like truck, and I was so tired, like, because I was already old at this point in marching drum corps, and I was like just watching, and I was watching them do their show. Is it the man in the suit or whatever?
Yeah.
And I was like, this might be the best DCA show I've ever seen. Like, they were executing on like a level that like DCI corps who had time to move in, and I was like, you know what? They got it. Like, I was
Don't
just
get me
like,
wrong. I'm saying they don't deserve it. It's more of, do they feel over time that it's in their best interest to have some competition?
I don't think so.
Or over time, does it not
I
even
don't know.
matter?
Winning is fun.
I was gonna say like normal people really just think, and also like all the things that come with winning. It's like then you have a full drum corps every year because people want to win, and you get the nicest things because people want you to win with the nicest things. And people, I think, maybe don't get tired of that. They might get tired of winning. They'll be like, oh, well, we already know what's gonna happen, but they won't get tired of like always having these very nice things and having a pristine conditions to function under.
This whole conversation, this is the one thing, and I want to go into depth with this at some point, but not tonight because we'll be here for 6 hours. But 2014 DCA.
Oh, here we go.
I
thought we were going into this.
don't want to go into that as far as like Cabs got screwed or anything like that, but I want to go into that with like I mean, I don't know. My opinion is something shady like that. It was weird.
That would never happen in
that was
anything
weird.
judged.
And the reason I'm saying that is not because of the outcome per se, but the way. Why do we have to stand on a field for an hour waiting for scores to come out?
That was very
what
annoying.
was going on?
This is a loaded conversation that I think we're going to have to relive it in order to describe it correctly.
Absolutely, yeah.
I have a lot of very funny moments from like,
and we should get some representatives on both sides to have it out with this.
Yeah,
we need to get Josh.
But
Campbell
it was. I've never been at finals where it took that long for scores to come out.
Yep.
Like it was, we literally stood in the field for like an hour.
I remember because I
crazy.
sat down and I almost got yelled at because they're like, you're in uniform, and I was like, what are
and
we here for? Like,
and some of the conversations between the staff out there were like, oh, something's going down. Like we were like
already
we
Spidey
we already
going
wrote
out,
ourselves out of it before they even announced it because we're like, something's going down. Like there's some conversations happening. I don't know, whatever. Maybe we'll never know.
Well, yeah.
But what I'm not, the only reason I bring that up is because a lot of times this is where it bothers me. Like I don't think that it's not that like the Bucks go in and win and everybody else got screwed. But what does happen is like that one instance. What happens to the trajectory of those organizations if Cavs had won, like they had been all season? What happens if they win that night? How does that change the trajectory of that organization and the Buccaneers organization for not winning that night for the next 5 years?
And every other drum corps,
how does it change their recruiting? How does it change their how do you know what I mean? And like that's the and that's why I made the joke about 85% of the time. But like not taking anything away from the accomplishment on the field, but like how does that change things if the infrequent times that somebody actually does challenge the throne and they actually cross over that line, how does that change?
You don't want change.
And maybe making another analogy. I know I'm making analogies all night, right? But if you had the Phillies playing against a little league team, now the disparity between those two is way bigger than any DCA core from Reading to others, right? But if that was the league, right? You had 10 little league teams and the Philadelphia Phillies, right? Over time, first of all, the recruitment for the little league teams is going to get way worse because they don't want to get beaten up on every night. And I'm not saying that these scores are getting beaten up on.
Quite literally what happens.
Right. This is probably a terrible analogy because the disparity is so great. But over time, don't you think the Phillies would be like, this is just not fun anymore?
I actually think I don't know.
Maybe it's not.
I think the other side is worse. I think the team that's losing every year is like, what are we even doing this for?
Yeah, that's what
well, for sure.
I think that is a thing. I don't know. You get tired of winning
because the only other part of that is there. In the case of especially DCA, every once in a while, one of those little league teams is gonna outperform the Phillies in this analogy, right?
Yeah.
Not in reality.
in the simulation.
Yes, but there's no possible way an MLB team could not. They must win.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna make the MLB look terrible.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, like like I was telling Mark, I think people don't get tired of winning. I think like if that's what you're fixated on and like fulfilling the ego and being like, yeah, I did this, I got a gold medal. Like people live for those moments and they're gonna keep doing it.
How much is that gold medal worth over time?
That doesn't matter.
Like,
they won.
I think the value of that gold medal, I think publicly diminishes as
but
the disparity becomes bigger.
to win, people will cheat.
Yeah, literally. Like I mean,
People, you know what I mean? People, and I'm not saying this about drum corps, but I like in sports, people will take steroids and they'll do things that will damage their health, just to win.
There was during coronavirus, like I played trading cards, and they had tournaments over webcam, and they caught it was like every other game had a cheater. Like they would record the games, and like there are limits on like you can only have 3 of a card, right? And like you'll get an hour into the game, and somebody use it, and they use a 4th copy. And it's like, where'd they get the 4th copy? And they go back in the footage and account for the 3 they used. And they had somebody like hand them a copy from behind the webcam without them seeing and like played it. And like there was so much rampant cheating in children's card games like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball. And it was like people will cheat at anything because they want to get that stroke of the ego.
Do you think they ever go to the table and like, well, it's year 12 of the dynasty of this player. I'm just gonna do this because I need to go through the motions, but there's like I don't have a chance here.
I think
the New England Patriots, right?
I think they do deal with it though, because I think that's the only reason they do have like there are some down years where they're not. I mean, 2014 for example, I don't think that was a strong score they put on the field, and like why did that happen? I think maybe there's just some fatigue. Like I don't think that when they started their run was like all the way back in 2005. I don't think. I would bet there's not one person from that core on the field still.
Oh, for sure.
So there's definitely been turnover. There definitely is fatigue. People get tired of it. Too old, life, whatever. And I think like culturally they're able to maintain that. But I also think that they've created an environment where people are going there to win. Like there are members of other organizations that leave to go there.
The best members.
Like, okay, I got my 2 years experience. Now it's time to go get my ring.
The thing would be fun with Reading though is now we can afford to take a whole bunch of risks, but they don't. They're like, let's do Pat Metheny because we know Pat Metheny's going to win.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think you were talking about the age thing. A big proponent thing is I think it was maybe not 2014. There were a couple years where like their membership and their battery was. The average age was like 24, 25 or something. Yeah. It was like they barely had it. It was just people that had been there for years. And in 2014, we were all young, but we all were experienced, and we were getting to the same pinnacle of like we have the same people here for a couple years, and that's where like we're turning up the heat in the kitchen, and it's like we like whatever, give or take, both percussion sections were really good, whatever. But like when you started having an equal playing field in terms of the experience and stuff. There would have been competitive parity, even like with I don't know different comps and different shows or whatever. Like if every drum corps had the same chance of membership, where people wouldn't leave to go to Reading and would stay there and build their own programs up, DCA would be flourishing. There'd be so many. There'd probably be new drum corps.
Back to the governing body thing and the board of directors. I don't think that these organizations should be made up of. If you had a school board, you don't let teachers be on the school board. Because their subject area, they're going to be overrepresented.
Governing themselves.
They're going to be governing themselves, and that's not a good situation. It's not allowed in most places. Like most places have a rule where you have to be not employed by the district for 3 years before you're allowed to run. Yeah, it's just a bad idea because you can't tell me they're not representing their organizations first.
Yeah,
and in doing so, they're going to be all about. And it's the worst part about it is they don't even all have representation. The only ones that have representation are the ones at the top. So you can't tell me that they're not deciding rules and making changes that's giving them an advantage to stay there.
Yeah.
Not only that, but like making rules that are just inconsiderate of literally everyone else.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to. You're not even seeing anyone else. You're just seeing all your elite friends. Like that's all you're seeing. You don't have to worry about anything else because.
And look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers of open class compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Compared to 40 years ago,
the activity's not dying.
And we just keep going down the same path, and nobody's questioning that. And I
think people are questioning it. They just don't want to shake. They either don't want to shake the tree, which I understand. People don't want to get into arguments and fight about things, but then. You can't complain when things go down.
Suddenly the competition becomes art again. You can't criticize because you're talking about art and,
we're great at dancing around it.
At some point or another, you have to have the tough conversation. For that matter, who else is doing what we're doing right here now, aside from the folks that we get together around a dinner table and have this conversation.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I have had this discourse
Thousands of times, right?
I have had it. I have brought it up thousands of times, but only have been engaged probably 5% of the time that I brought it up, because people either just like, I just do band to do band, or
No, that's
I don't really care that much. I don't really want to teach. I just wanted to win. Like, and it's like, all right, fine. Like, but then like, don't complain when things are bad, because it's like, then you literally don't care about the activity. You wanted to get your stroke of ego. You got it. You won your championship. Go do something else with your life.
And you don't care if they fold.
You don't
next
care
year.
if they fold. They literally like, some people like will completely ghost the activity after winning, and then be like, I didn't even know these people were still around, or I didn't even know this. And
That's
it's like,
actually another thing that's, I think, dangerous for the future of everything is the trend of shouting down old people with opinions.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't have to agree with them. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like that's just a bad habitual policy to have, because you're just probably the fan base that has the most money to put into it, but also like, why, like, I don't know.
Wouldn't
we
the
have
opinions
sports where people sit around and debate and argue about things all the time. Why is it you have to agree or we will shout you down in this activity? Like, that's just
That's the
crazy.
thing is like, the reason I've only been engaged 5% of the time is because people do agree with me. They're like, yeah, that probably is an issue, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's like, but like, also, aren't the older people the ones making these like rules in these organizations?
And
Like,
don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people
Yeah.
who just moan about any change that you make.
yeah.
And even if you change things for competitive parity,
Yeah.
they're gonna moan about that. You know what I mean? So like there are people who just don't like change.
That's a really good point, because like the people that I see complaining about the cost thing are the older people. They'd be like, when I marched drum corps, it was only this much. Like, why is it this much? And like, the kids that are doing it don't want to complain about it, because I guess they don't want to put out into the internet that they have a problem with these organizations, or they have a problem with this. And it's like,
yeah,
why
there's
are people that
there's
are not
definitely leverage
yeah
there,
and it's like
yeah.
it's like I from the
Same
beginning
reason they don't talk about other issues. that
I mean,
happened for years.
literally, this was all the subject matter of like the masterclass I was doing, where I was like, why, like when I marched Raiders in 2012, it was $1,200, and even to now, like in 2019 when the kids marched, I think it was $1,900 for vets and $2,200, and our tour was a little shorter, but that's still not nearly as much of an increase. Like my snare tech told me in cadets in 2007, he paid like $2,500 or something. It might be a skewed number, and now they're paying twice as much, $5,000, $6,000 after camp fees and stuff, and it's like, what?
You know how much my tour fee was for a full tour
They paid him.
and food? They damn near paid me $750.
But like, and it's like,
I got 4 meals a day.
well, I'm thinking like, is it like, if we really want to get technical with this, is it the cost of inflation? Is it the cost of gas? I've heard many
No.
people say it's the cost of
I mean,
gas.
there's-
I think it's not 90, maybe like 75% the arms race.
Well, the gas right now is cheaper than it was 15 years ago.
Hey, Zach.
But the cost of everything, like the minimum wage argument, the cost of everything has gone up, but like people aren't making more money really. So it's like, is it
possible
that?
for you to
Like,
look up
No, it's
Look at inflation
increased
rates.
a lot more than inflation.
what is
Yeah.
$750 in 1999 dollars equal in 2021 dollars?
click, 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 click.
He's got the magic
He's got
internet.
it.
The Google box over there is going to help us out.
But the governing body of these DCI, DCA, all these circuits should not be members of the groups competing in it.
Yes,
they should be
for sure.
people who are looking out for the health and competitive parity of the entire circuit.
Do you think it's like they were memeing this where like
When the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl every year, they put in salary caps.
oh
You know
well,
what I mean?
I was thinking like the parallel with like I think it was like Nancy Pelosi made some comment about like, yeah, $600 is a lot, like this would cover all these bills, and it's like she was born in the 40s,
Maybe-
like,
maybe
and it's like
some of that, yeah.
they're like the board being so disconnected with like financials because they're probably in a wealthier place,
Yeah.
and they're so oblivious to anything. Like,
And also-
they asked who was it? I think it was Bill Gates. They were like, they put him on, I don't know if it was Oprah or Ellen.
It was Ellen.
Yes,
They
they
made her-
asked them the
like,
price
how much
of
is a
grocery
box of
items.
ramen and a pack of ramen or a box of hamburger helper or a gallon of milk. He's like, and he was guessing like $13 for the gallon of milk, and like
he was just oblivious, like
completely oblivious. Like,
and it's like maybe it was an act, whatever. But like there is
My
no
maid told me it costs this much.
like for
She's stealing money from me.
but it's like they might be so financial. I mean, and this happens again like between people that are wealthy and poor. Like wealthy people would be like, well, why don't you just like? I mean, this would happen to me in the activity where like somebody would come up to me and be like, oh, you're still paying your dues? Like they were due like 2 weeks ago, and it's like, yeah, my parents don't pay for this.
Man,
like
what would stuff be
they were
like-
so
What
disconnected.
if DCI said $3,000 cap?
They're not going to
Remember.
do that because they're the directors are the ones that are making those decisions.
Do you know how much money we're not going to be able to?
We're not going to be able to go get our manicures every weekend.
I'd like even a thought experiment of what that would look like.
Well, I think like
Ryan.
this, and this is the thing where sorry, you got the
it's $1,200.
wow.
$1,200. I paid $1,200.
Blue coats.
And you,
What do blue coats dues now? Probably like four,
five, four, five?
four,
I'd
I'd say
five.
it's probably 4. Yeah, I don't think they're on the highest end, but
I mean, that's
they're
still
in
the
that
higher end,
ballpark,
probably.
so it's
yeah, that's
400% more than they should have.
yeah, that's not to mention like all the camp fees and all that stuff that they sneak in that doesn't count towards your tuition and all that.
Oh wow, Blue Coats. It says 20. Oh, that's 2021. I'm not gonna count that year.
Why not?
Let me see if I can find it. But it says 2021 is $3,000.
Oh, that's still
And
not.
a short tour though, right?
Yeah, that's
They
the
also don't have to go
Nerf
very far
tour.
to get
Yeah,
there.
Let me look at 2019 because that's gonna be the most relevant.
yeah.
Of course, I don't know what.
And that
which
was
one
like
mine
probably
looks
the
like.
priciest production they had. Like 2019 was like a full on Cirque du Soleil show. Like it had everything.
Still looking.
And now, granted, you're also paying for 22 more people than you were in 1999.
Yeah, I don't know that adds a whole lot of cost, other than, like food and stuff like that. But I think because some of the justification for the size increase was like we have this many empty bus seats. Why don't we just fill all the buses? Like that kind of thing was a thing. So some of it I think was cost effective
Yeah.
to add people.
You didn't add another bus.
So-
That would be the big thing. Just
Yeah.
it's 150. Add another bus.
So this isn't telling me for Blue Coat specifically, but it's saying on here, Blue Devils in 2019 was approximately 3,500 before camp fees, and they have to get their own housing for spring training.
Blue Devil's a little bit of a weird situation too, though, because I think
Wow,
some of their
the
stuff.
housing thing, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
it's
They all
crazy.
move out to California. Yeah.
It's sort of weird because I think there's a possibility they may be able to subsidize some of that through their other
Fundraising.
their other enterprises, right?
Yeah.
Blue Devils is pretty awesome in that way. They're the only drum corps I can think of that is thinking beyond.
Well, what I was gonna say is I know that they're on the cheapest end of the top 5 spectrum. Like and it's because of those things. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
like,
as a comparison, then this is 2019.
Cavaliers would be a good.
cadets is
2019, right? Boston was 5,100. Cadets were 4,200. Crown was 4,300. Cavies was 3,700.
Yeah.
So I was doing the math in the masterclass thing, and I think we did it actually on our first episode of this podcast. But like I was like, in a good scenario, right? Let's say you work for $10 an hour in a non-minimum wage scenario, and you work 40 hours a week after taxes. Let's say conservatively $350 a week. You'd have to work like 14, 15 weeks to get the $4,000. The $4,000 like baseline, not even like up to 5 or 6, and that's without eating or paying bills or doing anything like that.
Or,
That is.
like,
Or
going to school.
going to if you're working a full-time job for 25% higher than minimum wage, you would still need 4 months at least without paying any kind of bills at all. And then this is also like drum corps season runs. That's a third of the year, and the season would run arguably the other 2/3 of the year. So it's crazy how
It's a
much
rich kid sport, man.
it's
Even that $750 made me sick.
like
I
Yeah.
physically worried me. I can't imagine what they're experiencing now.
well, that's the thing
No,
is like they're
that's-
not experiencing it. Only the kids that can pay for it.
Or kids irresponsibly taking out extra student loans
Oh,
to be
yeah.
able to pay for
And the worst-
Taking refund checks. Oh, sometime let's have a conversation about refund checks.
And the worst part is like I would have done that
Refund.
if I had the ability to take out a loan to March DCI, I would have done it. And then like it hurts me to think like, I mean, because to me like in my head like that would have made more sense than taking out a loan for school at this point. But like
I get that.
But the adults in charge should not. be
Yes, kids should
creating a
not be taking
system
out
where
loans,
they're-
yeah.
Like if they know that's happening, they like come on.
one of the organizations that I marched for, and it was very unfortunate, but one of the financial directors would always have this thing they would say where they'd be like, you can owe Visa, you can owe MasterCard, You can owe all these people, but you cannot owe the drum corps. Like, we need the money to function. And it's like the
They would say that?
perpetuation. Yeah. And it's like, at the time I was like, that makes sense. Like, we need to go on tour. Like,
Well-
we need to make sure we're doing these things. And it's like, wait, you're
That's
pushing
like-
us to get into credit card debt.
That's
to-
like pyramid scheme language.
And also, like,
yeah.
Truly.
This
Truly.
person was also arguably involved with
the other thing
pyramid
too, and I mean, this is harsh maybe, but I'm gonna say it. Like, I will not donate to drum corps because, like,
just the people.
Yeah, sure.
because they're not. You're turning around and asking me for a donation like you're some charitable organization, but you're riding on the backs of these kids. And literally, I see no evidence that you're making decisions that's making it more accessible and easier for kids to participate on an equal playing field. Why should I financially support you?
We need to Jimmy Dore it.
You're gonna the next time we need to start
Yeah,
yelling.
no, it really isn't.
But
like,
no,
start
like,
a petition and like
you're-
really get
you're
on this.
asking me for money, and everybody just like nobody. I don't see anybody like responding negatively to that. But seriously, you're asking me for money, and all you're doing is making this more difficult, and you're adding expenses, you're adding all these things for the art of it, and all you do, instead of creating a good business model that can financially sustain itself, you just keep putting more on the backs of kids, and like that's not. That's
like
not
most
cool.
business
That's not
practices.
cool. Like, so I don't know. Like, and it's easy to sit around and complain about it. And you know what? People are like, well, what are you doing about it? We literally are.
Well, we literally are, yeah.
We literally are doing something
Yes.
about it.
And
If
to
you
your
want to
point-
find out more about that, come and talk to us.
Yeah. And to your point, part of what makes that so it doesn't change is they're governing themselves.
Yeah. But you know what sets my heart on fire for real is this just not that long ago, a couple months ago, I was just sitting there like thinking, I love this activity, but if I was 18 today, it's not accessible for me. There's no way I could have done it. And that's like, that makes me angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me mad. That makes me mad that we've allowed it to be turned into this. Like I would not have ever. I struggled to pay. My dues were less than $1,000, and I struggled. I went door to door selling Krispy Kreme donuts. I'm not exaggerating. Like, I wouldn't do that for anything else. But this was important enough to me that I took a little clipboard and went door to door in Sunbury, PA, selling Krispy Kreme donuts for a fundraiser that the band parents set up for me. Like,
And I'm not saying
that's impossible today.
you
couldn't. Do
I don't know if
today.
you could sell enough Krispy Kreme donuts. You'd have to open a small enterprise to be able to make enough to afford.
Yeah.
When we were doing the
Right?
fundraising, last winter for the kids that from Epic that were going to go do Raiders, I was looking into different fundraising opportunities. And like Krispy Kremes, you sell the box of donuts for $8 or $10, and you either get $4 or $5. So to make up that $5,500 for Boston, you'd have to sell 1,000 boxes of donuts.
Yeah.
1,000, and that's tuition alone. That doesn't count travel
And
expenses.
good luck. I actually ran into. I think I mentioned
That's
this.
not. I feel like
That's
vomiting.
slinging 12,000 donuts.
Well, I did sell enough to pay probably 80% of my tuition, but I mean you're talking $900, not $5,200. But I was not able to deliver all of them fast enough before they went bad. So like there was like 8 people I had to reimburse their money because the donuts got hard because
Yeah.
I couldn't get to them within a day or two.
Yeah.
By the time you sell 1,000 boxes of donuts, you might as well open a franchise because you're
and like the thing,
That's true.
that's $10,000 in donuts.
If you
have to
could sell 12,000 donuts in that span of time, I'm sure they would look favorably upon you
Like, come
to
on.
open a franchise.
If you just didn't want it enough.
well, that's we were again. I was doing the thing for the class, and I was talking about it. It's like it's hard to expect that from people because I did it. I worked 75 hours a week and went to school full time and taught full time to do this. Like, but to expect that from regular people is absurd because like it's borderline psychotic that I did that. Like, and I would even at like it's like I don't know if this is like the same argument, but it's like people who don't want student, I mean, in a very lightly sense, like student loans forgiven. Like even if I had taken out loans and I know what I'm going through, I would still not want somebody else to go through it. And like, even though I killed myself to pay for all these things, if somebody was like, you know what, we're going to make this way cheaper than when you march, I'd be like, okay, yes, like awesome. Even if I was still paying off the loan from taking to March Boston, if I would have marched Boston or whatever ex drum corps, I would be all for people making it cheaper. Like it wouldn't make me mad. And like, I think there's a little bit of gatekeeping with like it's tough because like again I wouldn't ever want somebody to go through that, and I'm not trying to take away from the people that do march these organizations that charge extortionary prices who worked a year at like I don't know like some crummy job to make sure they had enough money to go march and took a year off school to do this. Like those people are exceptional and like, quite literally the exception, but like most people that do want to do this are instantly discouraged. Like they could have the talent, they could have even some of the resources, but like if you see this mountain of debt and like think about how easy it is to get discouraged by anything. Like, I mean, I get discouraged when I think like, oh man, the mini mart is 3 blocks away. Like that is a real obstacle. And like, and money is such a big part of people's lives that like,
and back to the governing body thing, like the organizations that are at the top don't even care for the most part, not all of them, because there are some that do some things, but don't even care enough to generate interest in the entire activity to do things locally. Like there are groups that like, there are towns that host championship caliber drum corps and people in the town don't even know who they are.
You should be able to run a
don't
corps
even know they
these days
exist.
still on bingo. Bingo used to be the way you'd run drum corps.
Yeah.
That's not possible at all anymore. The thing you said is the thing that's making me the most sick, though. I can't, if what you said is the going sort of operating, mode of operation that they're encouraging taking on debt. What you just said, you can't pay back a drum corps, but you could pay. You can delay Visa, you can delay MasterCard. That is the language of, honest to God, of every seminar I've ever taken to put a business together, to look into viable businesses. They tell you, if you hear that, run. That's like Tony Robbins stuff, right?
Well,
like that.
That's pretty
rule number
funny.
1: if they tell you to use other people's money first, it's a scam.
yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of kids I think the Clout thing that we talked about the other week, the band Clout, is real. And I think it's pretty powerful. I think it's fun. It's easy to make fun of it, but I think it's very real. And there's a lot of kids that want that and are, willing to do a lot of things to get it. And it's, I don't know, the Clout is a scam. It's a scam. It's this fake thing that doesn't actually exist that nobody in the real world cares about. And it's just getting you to sacrifice a lot of your time and money. And it's like, I love that activity, and I don't think the activity is going to die. But it needs to change.
Yeah.
It needs to change.
I think I sort of disagree with the Clout thing. I think it does have a lot of weight with a lot of things. What I don't think is it doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Like it's like you will get jobs easier. You will get gigs. You will get
I
people
don't
that
think
seek
so
you
at all.
out. Well, I know people that are terrible educators and have marched these drum corps and only get gigs because they have this on their resume.
In the activity. I'm saying outside of drum corps,
Oh,
nobody
okay.
cares.
I thought we were still talking within
Nobody
the scope
cares.
of.
No. Within the community itself, yeah, sure. That's the only reason it's a thing is because it exists there. But when you get outside of that, you go down to the gas station and say, "Yo, I marched BD." They don't.
I mean, I don't know. Oh, well, yes. I'm just thinking. Well, I was thinking like not that casual of context, but like I mean, even another performing musician, like the Blue Devils would still be something like really, really good to do. But like you said, even classical musicians are probably like, who cares? Like they're just like especially like that divide between symphonic snare drums and marching snare drummers. It'd be like you played a marching snare drum, like that's not hard. Some people like they're so disconnected and they just don't care about anything else. Where you're right, it wouldn't matter. Like they would just be like, who cares? So I mean, but I don't know the band Clout, like I agree that it's not worth going into debt for, but they do utilize it as like a tool of getting all these kids to audition, cutting them
but
Friday.
that's what I'm saying. That's what the scam is. That's what the scam is. You'll
dangerous
you'll get
message.
this, and all you got to do is pay $5,000.
At least.
All you got to
And
do.
that's if you make it. If you make it after the $300 in registration fees you got.
At least.
The most expensive part for me was getting to the camp. Like that was the
Oh yeah.
like flights or
Dude,
bus tickets or whatever.
same-
Like that
same-
stuff that cost more than my tuition.
Same thing. I was talking about it on the video where I took a 23-hour Greyhound to Blue Stars, like, and because I couldn't afford a flight, I was on a bus for 23 hours, and I
it's
was
crazy.
like, I wanted to off
I'm
myself.
sure
like
when you rolled off that bus, you gave them.
Oh, no,
right? Like, you were at your tip top shape.
Oh, I was like so I ended up going to like the last callback camp and I got 9th place out of 8 spots, but like I remember the drive back with those so miserable because I was just wallowing in my self-pity of like getting cut on Sunday. But there was some dude who came from Cali. I don't think he came on a Greyhound. I'm pretty sure he flew because this was in Indianapolis. And he got cut Friday night. Like we played through 8s and they were just like, yo, you're just not. We played through 8s and we did some like marching thing. And they just went up to him. They're like, you're not going to cut it, man. Like we'll see you next year or something. And I was like, oh my God. Like I don't know I don't know how I feel about this because it's like, do you let them go early so they can spend their efforts and their time on like improving and you're not wasting their time, or do you still like give them the experience of the camp because they paid for it and like they can still drum. Like, you can still have them there. They can still learn. They can absorb all this knowledge. So I don't know how I exactly feel, but I remember looking at like his reaction when he got cut, and I was like, there's so many levels of pain, like the logistical pain of what am I going to do for the next 3 days? I can't really stay here. I've been cut or whatever. Like,
to play devil's advocate on that though, that's also on him. Like, if I appreciate the sacrifice going there and stuff like that, but if he didn't invest himself enough to find out where he stood and what his chances were and went in that blind to it,
well,
that's on him.
There's another parallel with that is I auditioned with this dude who I actually like became really good friends with on Friday night, because we were both kind of like, we both drummed a little more East Coast than everybody, and I was auditioning at Blue Stars at the like start of like their West Coast thing, and he had March Crusaders, not Boston, Oregon.
Oh, Oregon.
And they're really good. They were really good when they won open class and they went to World, and like they were really good percussion section. And he was just drumming with me, like we were going through the stuff, and I'm like looking at him, I was like, this guy's ridiculous. He is clearly the best person here, like clearly, undoubtedly the best snare drummer here. And we had like the ensemble room where we were just playing snare drum together, and there was like the audition room right next to it. And they would just say, oh, play this, play this, play this. So they just started handing him ridiculous stuff, and they were like, oh, play a Flam 5 grid at 180. And you could hear, like, we would stop playing eights or whatever, like the most machine-like perfect rhythms. He had the sound, he had all of it, he had the experience. And they cut him I think it was Saturday night. They were like, yo, we don't think we should take you because like this and this, like stylistically, all these things. And I was like, he came more prepared. He came throwing down better than everybody else. And even then, like, because I'm assuming a little bit of the politics, there were a lot of students there for people that were teaching and all this. And, you know, again, like that kind of sucks, but I get like trying to fill your line with people that are going to commit or maybe all these things.
I
but
see both sides of it. Like from a professional standpoint, like they should be taking whoever presented the best. But I also know, like, on the other side of it, you get burned a lot by, you give a kid a spot and then they flake on you. So you know that, like, by having somebody that you have a little bit of a relationship with, you know you can trust them a little bit.
It's so tough because, like,
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I understand how that happens.
And then he ended up marching RCC that winter. Like, this was November. And he was marching RC. He filled a hole, or maybe it was the next winter. I might be wrong, but either way, there was no way he was getting that much better in a year to march RCC. Like, he was borderline there, and it's like you cut this guy at a 13th place percussion side, or at the time 14th place, whatever they were at, and it's like that's so crazy. Like, he won a championship the next year.
Some of that decision making might be why they're in 13th.
Oh. Well, I mean, I was just so frustrated because I was like, even if I did, like, I was thinking that he was the ideal version of my best case scenario. If I came in completely flawless, I still would have gotten cut because we both drummed, we both kind of hit the drum, and we were both playing stylistically the same way. And it's like, even if I had come at my fullest 120% potential, I would have gotten cut for these things. And like that really sucks. Like,
yeah,
it was definitely eye opening for that. Like, it's how everything works with that stuff.
Well. We're going long tonight.
Yeah.
But I also like some of the thing that's like, you know, looking out for the healthy, the activity all around is, I don't know if anybody's paying attention to, but like in our region, you can't rely on schools necessarily to push kids up to this, like maybe you used to. And I know in this region, I don't know everywhere else in the country, but I know in this region, you know, 25 years ago, there was a lot of really good band programs that were big, that were educating, that were pushing kids up, and now there's not much at all. And you know, like the thing that's frustrating to me is, well, you know, I mean, we're doing it. We're trying to get kids in 4th grade drumming with us, but it's not normal. It's not a normal thing you see going on, and I think that you know, it's frustrating that a lot of these organizations are just cruising along like everything's fine and nobody's paying attention to we're being cut off at the ankles.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, even in my generation, I guess, because Zach would be younger, I guess the next generation up, but between all of us, like, I got ostracized by my band program for doing drum corps, like, to a point where it was like, oh, you're trying to be better, like you're trying to be program. Yeah, and that was and I did come from a very good program, and it was like, you're trying to be better, like, ew, or like you're gonna miss this parade for this, like, bro, like, what the hell? And it's like, do you not see like the trajectory I'm on and like what I want to do and how the parade is so much more insignificant. Like it was just a big, it's a big ego thing for a lot of band directors.
We actually have teachers in this region who are
Yes.
who are discouraging their students because they might actually make them look bad.
Yeah, and that's so crazy to me because it's just like
not openly saying that, but the vibe is like, if they learn more than I taught them, they'll question what I'm saying.
ability.
Yep.
Yeah.
I ended up getting there and leaving. Like I taught there for free for 3-4 years, and I left there because I was just like so fundamentally in disagreement. I just kept learning from other people and expanding my mindset and stuff. And like I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I don't really want to be around people that discourage. And like I don't like using this as like a scope of success, but like while I was there, like we had like 10 kids go on to march, and like that was just in the 3-4 years I was there. And this is inclusive of like, I remember, with my one of my best friends, Akil, he came up to me at the Raiders show in Clifton. He was like, dude, I want to march because you decided to do it. And I had told him about how I got ostracized for doing it, and he's like, I don't know if I really want to go through that. And he's like, oh well, like you can do it, like I know I can do it. And at the time, like I will openly say Akil was very good at like he was better than me, and I was out doing it, and he just was discouraged. Like he could have been in the same drum line, I don't know, 3 snares in for me, because he was always drumming. He wanted it, and it was just legit the discouragement into it. And it's like, that is so annoying, because it's just like, if even somebody like him who was talented like gets ostracized like that, like imagine the kids that want to do it and don't really have the talent, and which I'm assuming is probably most kids that want to do it. And it's like, if they're even getting ostracized for thinking about doing it, like they're getting made fun of, like, oh, you're gonna. I mean, I got made fun of for wanting to go march Cavs because of the pants. Like, oh, you're gonna go march that band with the funny pants, and it's like, why are you looking at that and not like? It'd be like if I was going to, I don't know, Yale, and somebody's like, you're gonna go to a school with like a chicken mascot or whatever their mascot, some silly mascot. It's like, you're not looking at the fact that I'm doing something that's gonna make me better. Like Yale might be a bad example, but like I'm doing something that like is gonna benefit me, and as your role as an educator is kind of fulfilling your like life cycle with me in this. Like you're literally, your job is to educate me and to push me forward and to push me into better things. Like,
all that being said, the pants were pretty silly.
I never, I was just so about the drumming that I was just like, who cares? Like, I remember people would complain, and I mean, I would just be like, shut up.
Oh,
like, unless you're drumming at the level where you can complain about the clothes, like, shut up.
You didn't
like,
even have to wear the old school uniform.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
2011, we wore the legit blouses and the
button downs.
Yep.
Oh wow, I didn't realize they were around that long. I thought they changed them out in like 2007 or something.
He paid his dues.
I paid my dues as a
you didn't have you wore pants. You didn't have overall bibs.
No, I did have overall bibs.
Oh, you didn't wear the.
What was the older one? It was just button.
They were pants, man, and a button-down blouse and like 37 safety pins.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the safety pins.
Oh
thing.
Yeah.
No,
you don't even know, man. You don't even know. And our bell bottoms were extra bell bottom. It was like a parachute on your ankles. It was great.
I remember like people complaining, and I'd be like, dude, we're here to drum. What are you talking about? Like, I mean, I naturally get defensive too when like I don't know, people try to come for. I mean, I understand the whole digiprint uniform thing is like annoying, but like they'll be like, oh well, they're wearing this. It's like, did you not just see what they played and like what they did? Like, I get the whole like appeal of wanting to wear something cool. I just feel like that energy is very misguided. It's like you could be appreciating literally everything else, and you're concentrating on this one borderline irrelevant thing.
Agreed, but I think it's important to listen to those opinions, because if there's something blocking people from getting to that, something as silly as a uniform, maybe design better uniforms.
Sure,
maybe not just, be as weird.
But it's just so rooted in ignorance. It's like, I don't like the way that looks, and it's like you're thinking about the wrong things. Like, we're here to perform and play music. Like, even if you don't like the way something looks, like you don't like the way your Walgreens uniform looks or whatever you wear to work looks, and you still do that. Like, and you don't complain about it. So what is the deal here? Like,
it doesn't. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be that way, but like, I'm saying like if you're so this sounds terrible.
Because the uniform stuff annoys me, not because I have a strong opinion on how I want people to look, but I hear that so much that it's like, why do we do that? Like, why do we make it hard for people to appreciate and access what we're doing over something as stupid as a uniform? Like, I don't. Who cares about that?
Exactly.
Like, why can't we just wear athletic clothing that looks professional and not have it be thematic and theatrical and so form-fitting it looks like it's painted on your body? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I agree, but I just think it's so insignificant. Like, it's
so
like
that insignificant. Why do they insist on doing it?
Well, I just think they're like way bigger problems. Like, why are we concentrating on uniforms when the governing body of DCI is full of directors and the cost of the activity? And you said it's a droplet in that pool, but like there is just so many worse things you can concentrate on.
I don't think there's a worse problem with drum corps than perception. I think that is the number one problem.
No, well, I'm just talking strictly uniforms. Like perception, I mean, that could be the grand scope of things.
I think that's a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like if I'm gonna. I'll keep being negative with my word usage. If I'm going to waste time talking about uniforms, I'd rather waste time talking about how we can make the activity more accessible for people.
Then why do they waste time figuring out what uniforms to wear?
I agree. I think it's below us. I don't think we should be doing that. But if we're going to use any energy to concentrate on things, we should really be doing it on the things that are like the arms race. And although the uniforms are part of it, it's not the same as the Rosewood Marimba. Like we wouldn't be able to compare the two. One Rosewood Marimba would cover probably the price of the entire drum corps' uniforms. Like
I don't know.
For digiprint suits, like what are they like? Maybe they're like $150 maybe tops.
150 a person.
Okay, so that's still not as much as a Rosewood Marimba. Like that, it's still a percentage in what you're gonna pay just on
150 people. I don't know that.
That's 15. What is that? $15,000. 15. If they're 100 a piece, if you're getting them in mass production,
I think it's more than that. But it's.
And even then, that's one marimba. You're not talking about everything else in the arms race that is so much more deteriorating.
No, but you're also just talking about the cost of the member. What about the cost of like play drum corps shows for people who don't know anything about it and listen to what they say about it when they react to it? You're gonna hear about uniforms. I guarantee it.
I have, and it's almost been more positive than when I've shown people band shows with band uniforms. They'll be like, people like you're doing this with a band uniform.
But
like,
I don't think what we're doing now is any better.
I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying
that
I'm just saying that like I feel like there are so many worse things that we could be talking. I mean, I understand whatever. Like I have my own preferences with uniforms and all that.
Like pick your era, it doesn't really matter. But every time I've had somebody sit down and watch that didn't know anything, I don't remember anybody not saying, why are they wearing those goofy uniforms? Why are they like what? Why I would never wear that hat? Why do people do like that's always a criticism that people have of it or a bad reaction to it, and we just don't listen to it. We just don't listen to the and to me it's like there's a potential market that you're just ignoring.
So if I had to pick, I don't know. I'm kind of making this black and white, but it's like if I had to pick whether I wanted to march with people that would decide their entire decision on what they're gonna wear instead of the experience and the performance and I actually
think it's the complete opposite of what you're saying. I think they put way too much time and effort into those uniforms now, and they shouldn't.
No, I'm saying like if I had to choose whether I wanted to march with people that were putting that much effort into like I don't want to do this because of a uniform. I don't know if I'd really want to see how they feel like about beats and the show and long rehearsals. You're assuming they're going to
go play snare drum. I'm saying they'll buy tickets to shows.
Oh, you're just talking about general appeal.
It's not just about accessibility in terms of like getting people to do the activity. It's getting people to care about it and want to watch it.
I don't think the activity is appealing enough to do that though. Like even movies.
But that's why it's not appealing.
Well,
there's too much of that.
Even movies, they're like they don't. There's a lot of movies that don't even sell out opening weekend, and these are like mass funded forms of media that everyone accepts, and even those things don't fill out seats. So like for us to think that marching band is going to appeal to normal people is a little.
I think that's selling it way short. I think that's looking at it as it is now and assuming that's the way it has to be. And I don't think that's true at all.
No, it doesn't have to be the way. I'm just saying like very, very popular forms of media that apply to everyone don't sell out and don't really sell more in a lot of instances.
And there's also ones that sell out millions.
Yeah, but we don't make shows about the Avengers. We don't make shows about things that appeal to people. Like, and even a lot of the shows that are really good are very much misunderstood by the average person. So
but that doesn't mean we actively have to ignore common perceptions of potential fans and put up roadblocks.
I see what you're saying and I agree. I just don't think that the 1 or 2 tickets that we would sell by changing uniforms.
I think it might be more than
thousands.
That. I think
you think thousands of people would show up to a band show because we change uniforms?
Yeah.
You don't think that's a little outlandish?
No, I don't.
So
because if it's not a big problem, then why does everybody say that?
Who's everybody?
Show drum corps to anybody or band or whatever. Show it to anybody who's not in it. You will hear them comment about uniforms. You will.
But I think that's just
every time.
Common.
There's middle school kids I'm trying to recruit for a high school band. The biggest roadblock. Ask Laura. Ask middle school band directors. The biggest roadblock in getting kids to go join high school band is they don't want to wear the uniforms.
So and that's a regular band uniform, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what is the answer if it's not
I
digiprint
think
or
if
regular
you put on,
band uniform?
I think if you put on skin tight spandex, it's not going to make it more appealing for them.
But high schools don't do that.
Some do.
Very few. Very, very, very few. Like
But
the ones that have the money.
regardless,
But that's
who's
where you
wearing a uniform that kids want to wear? I haven't seen that band.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's not an issue. Like if that was the issue, then drum corps would have died years ago. If the uniforms were really that big a deal, like then
yes,
nobody would ever have
that's
found
a
the
fair
uniforms
point.
appealing.
That's a
Yeah,
fair point. But I think the interest at that point in time was high enough to override that. I think that I don't know, man.
That's what I'm trying to concentrate on. Is like how can we gauge the interest past nominal
we
things
also
like
don't
a
have to shoot
uniform?
ourselves in
Like
the foot.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying is I don't think it's really. I think it's maybe like dropping a rock. I don't think it's shooting ourselves in the foot. Like I think you're stubbing your toe on the corner of that metal frame of your mattress.
It's easy. Just don't do it. Just fix it. It's not like a complicated problem to solve that takes a lot of time and energy. It's just somebody has to think different.
I think if
difficult.
we're gonna impose an imperial rule like that, where it's like
I'm not
just,
saying make
no,
it a
I know,
rule.
but I'm saying like switch it up. There's so many other things that we could switch up that would sell out seats.
It's not a rule now. The problem with it now is nobody's allowed to think differently because if you do,
But you are. We're having discourse right now because you think
we're
differently.
talking about it.
Yeah.
It's not the same as taking an organization out on the road and competing and being different.
But they're like
It's not on the score sheets. It's not a defined criteria, but it's an expectation. And if you don't meet it, you'll be punished.
But you say that, but Vanguard won a championship wearing band uniforms when
you know
everybody
what?
was
That's
wearing
because
newsprint.
the uniforms they were in was in.
I'd like to see a study on the favorability of that movie Drumline and how they're seen versus how not necessarily just uniforms, right? I mean, like all of the litany of things that drum corps, that the marching activity ignores the preferences of the average person.
I mean, yeah, if you want to go
Right.
there, like
I'll bet you that movie has, even today, has a far bigger following than the number of people who care about the actual marching activity.
Dude,
It sucks, but that's the truth. So I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to those people.
yes. I don't think there's anything wrong either. Like I would have kids be like, "Oh, do you guys do drumline battles like in drumline?" And I'd be like, "Well, no, it's not." And they'd be like, "Oh, then I don't want to." Like,
And you and
and
I
they'd be
were
like,
like-
"I don't want to do it then."
And
And
you
I'd
and
be
I
like,
we're both like, man, that's so stupid. But then when we think about it, like,
"That's what I'm saying. If we're gonna discredit, if we're gonna try to fuel popular opinion, then that would be the first thing is the movie drumline and what makes that appealing." And because they're wearing regular band uniforms and kids want to do that. So what are we doing wrong that the movie drumline is doing
But
right?
I also don't think that anybody's looking at that going, "I want to wear that uniform" either.
But that's what I'm saying.
I've
The
heard
uniform's
same thing.
insignificant. Like it's
Yes.
more about what they're doing.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying why does it have to be?
It doesn't have
Why
to
does
be
it have
one
to
or
be
the
a
other.
roadblock
Yeah,
at all?
yeah,
It doesn't have to even be a thing, and it's not
Yeah.
difficult to solve that.
yeah.
This sounds like a good conversation for our next episode.
Oh,
Dude,
well, I think we kind of
Zach's
already.
politely like, hey guys,
How long is it? What are we at?
here comes the hook.
2 hours.
Oh my
we went way over tonight.
god. Okay.
well, let's wrap this thing up because nobody's listening at this point anyhow. Anyway, all right,
Holy cow.
cool.
That's you, Mark.
What?
You have to do the outro.
Are you
We're
sure?
done.
Thanks for liking, commenting,
Oh,
and
yeah.
subscribing. Check back with us next week.
I always forget about that part.